Are we all set? It's live?
Yeah.
Okay. And you can see, you'll tell me to stand right or left. Do I just need to stand on stage somewhere?
Yeah.
Anywhere on stage?
Do you need to present something on your laptop?
No, I don't even have a laptop show. But anywhere on the stage, I can walk around and you'll see it. Okay. Okay, I guess we are live. So for all of you that I haven't met and those online, I'm Judd Severance. I have been around, I like to say forever, but forever's not that long. I've been in Boise 28 years. I don't tell people in Idaho this, but I will tell you this. I was born in California. Yeah, but we don't tell that in Idaho. Idaho and California are like oil and water for some reason. I don't get it, but who knows? I was born in Riverside, California. Yep, and I grew up most of my life. Actually, I would live there 6 months, so I guess I'm a little bit Californian, but I grew up in Chicago, all over Chicago. Yep, Midwest. All right. And then I moved to Boise. My father actually moved us to Boise, and I've been in Boise the rest of the time. So we moved there when I was in 8th grade, because when I got to Boise, I skipped 9th grade and I went right into 10th grade. I think the Boise system is just a little bit lower than the national average. So it wasn't me. It was definitely the school system. If you want to know about me from a human good standpoint, I've been around for about 10 years. I was the first executive director that was hired for Terraces of Boise, and I've been there the entire time. My team has been with me a very long time. My HR director, kind of like your version here, she was with me. She was my first hire. She's still with me today. And she actually transferred over and she is my associate executive director now. And she runs the community when I'm gone. So she loves like this stuff. She is running the community and have a great time. She said she spent a bunch of money while I was gone. I'm going to come back and find out what that's all about. We'll see. History, if you want to know my history, I was in the military, first the 183rd, Black Hawk and Apache helicopters. Then I worked for Wells Fargo for a couple of years. Wells Fargo, I have my Series 7 license. So anybody who had 250,000 or more in their accounts back 20 years ago got to talk to me and my team, and we made you richer. So I made rich people richer. It was very unfulfilling work. I met a gentleman from the vice president of operations for Hyatt Hotels, and he thought that I had hospitality in me, so he wanted me to do that. The next 10 years I spent was actually at Hyatt Hotels. So Hyatt Hotels, I started as a big box GM. Big box GMs are resorts and things like that. 550 rooms, a casino, 7 restaurants, a parking structure, things like that. I started doing that. And then my communities, the ones that I ran, I say communities, they were resorts and hotels. I fixed them very quickly. So they switched me to a different team. And that team was the team that actually went into mergers and acquisitions. So I would go into communities. I would terminate the general manager that was in that area. I would actually take over their hotel and I would make the hotel back to the Hyatt standard, so to speak, and then go on. I did that for a couple of years for Hyatt. They liked that so much, they had me go do new builds. So I'd go into new builds, and instead of fixing bad ones, I set the new ones up for success. So that was my job for the end of it. My last gig was in Puerto Rico before I joined Human Good. I was there for, if I get this right, my wife used to yell at me. I was on the road 280 days a year for a Hyatt. And I didn't even know the difference. I have 3 sons. Back then, they were wee ones. Now they are 16, 17, and my 18-year-old is a little bit taller than me. My 18-year-old is a junior in college. He's an overperformer. And then my other 2 are probably going to be in my basement someday. So we'll see if I can ever get them out the door. But I had Human Good, when they were first starting up the Terraces of Boise, they wanted to do something a little bit different. And instead of having a clinical person run the community, they wanted somebody with hospitality background. And that's where they went out and grabbed somebody like me. So been there ever since. I fell in love with it. I love residents. It is the only reason I do this. I will tell you that right now. There's a lot more money in for-profit world. So if we were ever in this for money, we're in the wrong place. It's passion about the team and the residents. And that's what I love. So when I was going through college, I actually had my great aunt, who was basically a grandma to me because I had no grandparents. She went all the way through Alzheimer's, all the way through end stage, and I was there when she passed, but I was her caregiver. And that gave me a real love for the senior population, for Alzheimer's, for dementia, for cognitive impairments, and for what happens as we age. And I wanted to make sure that it was better than what she experienced. So that's why I stay in this field and what I do. And yes.
Tell us a little bit about Boise, Idaho. We don't know much about it. Do they have 4 levels of care, skilled nursing, memory care, and all that?
Sure.
And a number of years ago, we heard when we got a rate raise of about 5% or something, that Boise had one of 17%.
Yeah.
And we didn't know. Have you been at full capacity all this time, and where do most of your people come from, Idaho or out of state?
That was complex. I like how you stacked the questions. Let me know if I miss any of them, but I'll start at the first one. Tell you a little bit about Boise. Boise, our community is 13 acres. We do have all the levels of living. We have independent living, assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing. Our size is about comparable to this, maybe just a little bit bigger, but about comparable to this. The biggest difference between us and this community is how the layout is. We're a much bigger building. We're 4 stories tall, and a lot of our independent is all interconnected in long wings. So you could traverse the entire community indoors unless you want to go to the outbuildings. Those are the biggest differences. Since I've been there from the beginning, I do remember everybody that moved in. When we first started, it was about 50-50. I had about 50% of the population came from Boise, 50% out of state. The furthest person that moved in was from the Bahamas. I had somebody come over from London, but they actually came over from London in a weird way. They were at D-Day Beach on the day. They went to the Russian side. They were captive in war. They ended up in the Queen Mary. They came over and immigrated through Canada. So I've had residents from everywhere, all over the nation, I guess. I'll come right back to you. The only other question you asked was about the 17% increase. Where that actually came from, if you didn't hear the actual story, I told all the other executive directors back then, because I've been around so long. I remember Alex that was here. I remember Tyler. I met him many times over. I had dinner in your dining room with Alex, and we had Chipino. I still remember it to this day. And obviously I knew Bradley. So I've been around, and I told all the executive directors that year, I was like, listen, when you tell the residents they have an increase, tell them it could be worse. You could be in Boise. Because I had to stand in front of my residents like this and say 17%. And this is why. The reason why we actually had to do it is because our bond finance, originally we were tax exempt bonds, and our bond, we were financed at about 8.25%, which back then was a lot. Now 8.25 doesn't actually sound so bad. But midway through, we noticed the debt load over the time, we wouldn't meet our bond covenants, and we had to restructure the debt. And as part of the debt restructuring, we had to pay off some costs such as property tax and things like that. And you can imagine when you talk to shareholders, the first thing they don't want to say is, well, how about you take a haircut and the residents are going to just keep doing what they do? They weren't in for that. So we split the difference when it came down to that. And that's where that 17% came, the refinancing of our bonds. So after that was done, we're down at about 3.25 now, which is much better debt load for the community to hold and sustain for the future. Hopefully that answered all those questions. Yes. Yours was last year, 7.9 or 8. I'm talking about bonds. Yes, that was the reason 2 years ago, not the rate increase. The bond percent was that. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Backup power for your elevators in event of an emergency. And how about your communication system? Do you have a PA system to reach the residents in their rooms?
Great questions. I will tell you, we are not as concerned about emergencies in Idaho as Californians. I don't know. We don't have that many earthquakes, maybe 1 or 2. It's something that's very important, but I will tell you, the residents here have a very passion for it. My residents, if I told them about our emergency plans, they wouldn't even come to the meeting. If I said, we're gonna have a meeting about emergency plans, there'd probably be one person sitting there, and they probably thought it was an ice cream social. And that was the reason they were sitting there. In answer to your direct question, do we have backup power? Yes. Our 10 buildings, of them, 4 of them are run by backup generators. We have backup generators for each one of those buildings. 3 of them are the skilled nursing buildings. Each skilled nursing building has its own generator. We're a little bit different than your skilled nursing. You have the loop track, is what we call it back in the day, where you go upstairs and you can go around the whole thing. Ours was built after the greenhouse model. So I actually have 3 houses. Each one has 16 beds. They're all private suites in each of those cottages. And each one runs with its own team, its own employee base, as well as its own kitchen. So all the food is actually produced out of each one of those houses. So each one has its own backup generator for that. And the main building also has a backup generator. That backup generator does run all of our elevators during an emergency, which was the second part of your question.
Do you have trouble hiring staff?
Do I have trouble hiring staff? Everyone has trouble hiring team members at this point. I used to joke with my residents that I would know that we're probably in a good staffing position once the McDonald's takes down the now hiring sign. During COVID, you probably saw it. And in Boise, it was horrendous. Boise normal wages, just so you know, 3 years ago, normal wages in Boise was $7.25 an hour. That was a normal wage for a person that worked at McDonald's. And on my way to the community, I have a 43-minute commute, both ways. I've just been so used to it, but I see all the billboard signs on the way to work. And on the right-hand side of the road, there's a McDonald's sign, and it says, now hiring $7.25. Then you see COVID, now hiring $9, now hiring $11, now hiring $13, now hiring. It capped out eventually at $15.50. So Boise in 3 years went from $7.25 to $15.50 for a base wage. You can imagine what that did to the local economy, what it did to the housing market, what it did to all of that. Every business you went to had a help wanted sign. There was a lot of signs in businesses that actually said, please be patient, only one person showed up today. It was very normal in Boise where you were in restaurants and you'd go get your own water. And I'm talking about it like a Red Robin or an actual restaurant. You would go get your own water because no team members showed up, no employees showed up. It was that crazy for a while. So yes, we were the worst of it for a while. We have the pleasure, I guess, because we do well as a community on a lot of the metrics. I'm sure Bradley shared with you over the years the different metrics of the different communities. If he hasn't, I'm happy to share them all with you. I'll show you where everybody ranks and files if you want to see who's the best, who's the opportunity. Not you, but I'm happy to show that to you. We've been blessed to be doing well over the years, and that's helped with team member coming to our community. We set out when we first opened, my vision for the community is that we would be the community of preference, and the community of preference, not just for our residents. I wanted a line out the door of residents that wanted to come in. I wanted a line out the door of team members that wanted to come in. And I wanted a line out the door of stakeholders, the Dans and the Johns of the world to say, wow, this community is great. We got there pretty quickly, to be honest. Right now we have an 8-year waiting list to get into our community, and it continues to grow. Sometimes we just say, it's going to be a while, come back soon.
When you say stakeholders, do you sell stock?
Yeah, when I say stakeholders, do I mean stock? No, I truly mean the people that run the organization, that we would be a community of preference, a place where they would send team members to train them, a place where we would take team members out and send them into the field, just like I'm doing now here, to help out other communities and be part of human good on a greater level. Yes, ma'am.
There's a lady who moved to Boise from here, Marilyn Bischoff. Is she still alive in Boise?
If
you were
you knew
talking about where people came from. There's
Sure.
someone did leave here for there.
Yeah, I know Marilyn Bischoff very well, and don't tell her I told you this, but she has a boyfriend. Yes, she's doing very well. Her boyfriend is also a very nice guy as well. So I guess when you get to Boise, you also get a lover. It's part of the move-in perks. But yes, she's there and she's doing very well. Yes. If you come while I put you at the top of the wait list, absolutely, I can be bought. Now, I cannot be bought with money, but cookies, oh man. So yes, honestly, anybody within the human good system jumps the line, at least in my community. That's not a universal rule or policy or anything like that. But if you've been here 9 and 10 years and you'd like to come up to Boise, I'll find a spot for you. And the same way, the opposite. I've had team member or some of my residents move to other communities. Back in the day, if you remember Tyler's mom or Tyler's wife's mom, I think moved from Boise to actually this location. And we make that happen as well. So is there a buy-in to our community? The question was, if you move from one community to another, is there a buy-in? Yes, there usually is. It depends on the circumstance and how everything works out. Every community has different contracts. You have a different contract with TLG and Human Good Idaho, which actually the parent company for the Terraces of Boise, which is not part of the obligated group that runs for NorCal and SoCal. Bethany would be so proud if she was still here. She's the legal person that was earlier. They're all different. So that contract is with the legal entity. So yes, there would be, but it just depends on what that looks like and what the outs and ins are. The Terraces of Boise is a life plan, life care community, which means you have an equalized rate through assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing. This is not a sales pitch. I'm just giving you information, but it's an older model that you don't see very often anymore because of the financial aspects around it.
Can we jump the line if we don't say we're from California?
Can we jump the line if we're not from California? Sure, even from California. You can tell me you're from California. Just don't tell Idahoans you're from California. And when you move up, change your plates fast. As fast as possible, because they will run you off the road. One thing different about California and Idaho, everyone in Idaho has guns. So watch out. Everyone has guns up there. And what's that? And dogs, absolutely. Pets, very much. Our community's had snakes as pets, parakeets, dogs. Somebody tried to bring in a bear once, like a little cub. We're not a zoo, but we're very close at some points. Other questions I can answer about anything, honestly. I know I'm brand new. I appreciate the hospitality that you've welcomed, especially under the circumstance. But please know that this is not actually the first time I've done this, even for Human Good. I've already been deployed before like this situation at our community in Las Ventanas in Summerlin, Las Vegas area. I spent about 4.5, 5 months or so there, transitioning that community as well. So I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be on your side. I know what it's like to be on the team member side. And my hope is just to help. I am not the answer. I am not the solution, but I will work my tail off for you. That's for sure. Yes.
Judd, does your community have active veterans element in it, either surviving spouses or veterans? Do you have any programs? Do you cooperate with the VA in any way?
Yes, we do. Absolutely. Sorry, in my community, we don't have this fancy thing where you have microphones around. So I'm used to repeating every question that comes out. So if I start doing that, you're like, Judd, we can hear his question.
You have to do that for the people on Zoom.
Oh, well, perfect. Then I'll just get normally used. I'll just do what I do at my house. The question was specifically, do I have VA programs and how many of my residents are kind of a part of that? I have 83 veterans at our community. We absolutely honor them as much as we can. Boise also has a local VA and we partner with them as well. We partner with a lot of, forget the name of it, when you're in high school and you join the ROTC. Yep, ROTC comes out a lot and does a lot of programs with us as well. So there's a decent amount of that at our community. Myself being a veteran, it's near and dear to my heart. Yes. What days am I going to be here at this community? I would say 24/7, 365, but that's probably just not right. Dan was right. My wife and 3 kids, even though they love when I do travel, they do want to see me every once in a while. Right now, like to this week, I'm actually here all the way through Sunday night or Saturday night. So, and you'll see, I work very strange hours. My hours, I usually am here by about 6:30 in the morning, and you probably see me leave about 10 p.m. It's normal. I have energy for days. I don't know why God gave me all of this energy, but I have it and I've always had it. Even when I was in hotels, 60 and 70-hour work weeks was just normal. So I'm just very used to it. I promise I won't burn out. It's just how I run. So I'll be here a lot. You'll see me a lot. but normally Monday through Friday for sure at minimum, and a lot of Saturdays, I'll stay through Saturday night and take a late flight back Saturday. I do go back to Boise for Sundays. We're active in our church, so I do a lot with our church, as well as the fact that I'm big in being a role model for my sons. That's a big, important thing to me as a person. I think a lot of boys nowadays, they don't get enough training to become men. They just become boy adults. And I don't think that's great. That's my personal opinion. So I'm trying to do that different. So I'm there to be with them, but they're pretty self-sufficient right now. I see them when they're not with their girlfriend or they're not at work. Yes.
Are you going to be commuting between Los Gatos and Boise, or you're going to be here for a week and then you're going to go back to Boise and then you're going to come back here? Or
Yep.
what
So
is your schedule?
the question was, what is my schedule? Maybe let me just be even easier. Usually Monday through Saturday, every day of the week. And I'll be home. I'll probably go back to Boise on Sundays. Lucky for me, San Jose Airport has a direct flight to Boise, and it's an hour and 20-minute flight. So I can just take that flight in, and I can actually be here Monday morning by 8 a.m. on that flight. And there's a flight back on Saturday nights that gets me home by about 9:30 p.m. So most of the time it'll be Monday, 8 a.m. all the way through Saturday night at probably 7-ish, depending upon traffic to get to the airport. So a lot, probably too much. You'll probably get sick of me. Invite me to dinner. I'm fun company. Other questions, comments? I know some about what's going on in your community. I've made myself, I get into stuff really quickly. I already had a meeting with Tim McDade. He is the regional with Vincent, that works with Vincent, to find out about your Galleria project, to find out where the status was. I don't know if we did a good job, John this morning, explaining that the thing that is in for permits right now is called CDs, conceptual designs. That doesn't mean you're even going to move forward. That just means that the city's not going to put the kibosh on it. So what's in with the city right now is just, hey, we're thinking about this. Is that okay? Sure, go ahead and do that. Then we actually move forward into the next steps, which is actually the final design, construction drawings, working with the vendors and things like that, which is where your input is going to be vital to the success. Your feedback is going to be vital to that success. So just know that it hasn't gone past the point. I know this morning it kind of talked about, oh, it's in the city for permits, conceptual drawing permits type stuff. Yes.
When you talk with the downtown people, make sure you use the term town instead of city.
Got it. Use town instead of city. I like it. And any other ones that you want to tell me, please do. That's the one I usually tell you. If you come up to Boise, everybody says Boise. There's no Z in Boise, but it's great because we know you're an outsider when you come in and say Boise instead of Boise. Probably the same thing, city versus town. I love that. Yes. Sure. What does conceptual design mean? What does conceptual design mean? Conceptual design, if you've ever seen a conceptual design board, what they do is they say, we're looking at refreshing this space. These are some of the things we're looking at doing. We're going to update carpeting. We're going to update flooring. We're going to update lighting. And these are some concepts that we're looking at. They might take a picture of a light. That light looks like it's still got stuff in it from New Year's. Did you guys have a good party or something? Some point we'll have to get that out of there. You can tell from my hospitality background, I see all the things that need to be fixed very quickly. Like the wall back there that needs to be painted, that needs to be cleaned. It just happens. So what are conceptual drawings? It'd be like taking a picture of this wood grain and saying, we like this color of wood. What do you think? That type of thing is conceptual drawings. They're usually a board. Think in art school when you used to cut out a bunch of stuff from a magazine and put it on a thing and say, I like this color palette. I like this fixture, this furnishing, this light palette. And that's what goes through. That's a conceptual drawing. Nothing from the wall is going to be 8 feet tall, or this is the masonry we're using. None of that is part of the conceptualizing. It would not be floor plans. It would not be pictures of arches. It would be none of those things. Yep.
We
Yes.
were shown conceptual designs at a decor committee a few months ago. And I would like to know how cut and dry this conceptual design is, because I was really shocked at how they were going to alter the Galleria, especially with building a complete wall that blanks off the clock wall and limiting exit and entries. And and the upstairs design. So I just got the feeling, okay, it's already said and done, and we're not going to have any voice in if whether this could be changed or not. So can you
Great
tell me-
question. I'm going to summarize it for those watching online. The question was more around for the Galleria project. The decor committee got some updates about it and they saw some things, but there's probably been a lot of hands in the cookie jar, so to speak, at this point, and there's not been a finalized version. Some of the things that have come out of those meetings have been, there's going to be a giant wall and there won't be a clock anymore. And I think a lot of times when you go through the conceptual steps of a new project, people hear an idea or a possible path forward, and they take that as this is what's going to happen. And know that I've been on many construction projects. I was talking about when I was with Hyatt Hotels. I've been in every state except Alaska, and I've done 119 new builds for Hyatt over my history and career. I've worked with countless construction crews, and I promise you, from what I've seen so far here, we are not too far along that we couldn't make changes, updates, or anything like that. The feedback of this community will absolutely be a part of the new project. Now, I'm going to tell you what I also tell my residents. As an executive director, one of my jobs is to be here physically in the present with you, designing things that are perfect for you. You also want me to have 1 foot in 5 years from now and design things that you don't even know you wanted, but you can't live without. Think about the iPad. I am not comparing myself to Steve Jobs, but if you think about the iPhone, right? Nobody knew they needed or wanted an iPhone until we had them. And then we all ditched landlines and everybody now has an iPhone. But if you had asked people back then, what do you want in a phone? They probably would have said bigger numbers. They probably would have said a louder speaker, ability for me to use it across the room. They would have never conceptualized an idea that they couldn't live without. So my job, as I see it, even for the Terraces of Boise, is to ensure you're happy, but also ensure that I'm providing stuff that you don't even know you wanted yet, that keeps this community vibrant, as well as gets it prepared for the next people that come in, which keeps you financially stable through the years. Now, I won't be around for all of that. That's a big, long time planning part. But no, as we're doing the Galleria project, if I'm still around, that's kind of how I go about it, is ensuring that your feedback is incorporated, but I also deliver things you didn't even know you wanted or needed, and it's going to be great.
Okay, Dan said something about this is not a vote.
Dan said there's a thing, this is not a vote.
Well, the thing is, this should be put to a vote to the general population of the community. We're paying for this. We should get the kind of design in the Galleria that we like. I know there's going to be a lot of different opinions about what it should be, but we did see a conceptual drawing of the proposed Galleria, and it's going to look like a huge enclosed vault in there. It's not going to be welcoming or comfortable.
Gotcha. What she mentioned was Dan earlier said, hey, this is not going to be a vote. And her feelings are that it should be a vote and that the residents here at this community are paying for it and they should have a part of that. And also an additive part that it looks like a vault currently. I haven't seen the vault part of it. I've heard from anecdotal things like yourself mentioning that. I haven't seen that in plan form yet, but if it would be, I wouldn't even do that. I wouldn't build a vault for you. That doesn't even make sense. A vault for a senior resident, sound would just bounce around and it would be terrible. So I would let you know that I've already told Dan, I will give feedback to that as well. I've done 6 construction projects on my community alone. Feel free to call my residents. I promise you, it can't be a democratic process. It cannot be let's vote. Why do you think it can't be a let's vote? It'll never happen. If I asked I had this example with pies. Residents, they wanted to try the democratic process one time, and it was between fruit pies and cream pies. That was the big thing. And we put it to a vote. And would you believe it was 49-51? 49-51, and it was 49 for cream. I had 51 for fruit pies. And I said to them, if I go with the democratic process, I am now ticking off 49% of you. How happy would you be if 1 out of every person here was ticked off? It's a much better option if I incorporate your feedback and deliver something to you that you can be proud of.
Are you going to show this conceptual design to the general population?
Oh,
so you
yes.
can get the feedback.
Know that I am a little bit different and from Brad. sorry. I'm a little bit different from Bradley in that respect, that I do a lot of presentations at my community, such as conceptual drawings. We are doing a project right now where we had an oak dining room. We call it an oak restaurant, but you would know it as a dining room. And over the years, it first started as a fine dining experience, Friday and Saturday nights, steak, lobster, all the different trimmings and stuff like that. It went well. Then the attendance started to fall off. So then we changed it into a new concept that was 5-course plated meal, and you could bring friends and things like that. That also died off. We're now changing it again. Right now, we're doing about a $350,000 project, and we're changing it into a bar. We're actually going to have a full-on bar in the community. Will that last? Who knows? But I will tell you, during that process, we sent out the drawings. They sit out front. They sit on big signs out front where you'll get to see them. We had the residents got to vote, so to speak, on their favorite colors. What color schemes did they want to go? And then we take that to the designer and say, this community loves blue. This community loves purple. They'd love to see that in the design. So your feedback is incorporated somewhat through the democratic process, but it's not choose A or B, choose the cream pie or the fruit pie, because at that point, we tick off 50%. But instead, if you tell me as a mass, we all love blue. And please, if you're watching at home, I'm not saying we're turning your Galleria blue, and it's not what I'm saying. I'm just using it as an example. If I know that, then I can please 80 to 90% by incorporating those things into the design. I do not know how far along, again, it is, but I promise you, as we go forward with it, I'll pump the brakes all the way down. I've known John and Dan for years. I will pump the brakes and say, guys, we need to pause. We're not ready. We do want to move forward. We want to move forward with the Galleria renovation, but we need to pump the brakes and get more feedback to make sure everyone is comfortable with the direction we're moving forward. I will not move that train out of the station till we're comfortable.
Thank you.
Yep, and I will tell you that I'm not going to please everybody. I know that. Yes.
I think that if I understand the process, today was supposed to be the day that we got to see it, the newest thing. So what Joanne is probably thinking of is the drawings that she saw before that the comments got put in. And so we don't know yet what the new concept is. So we can't get too excited until we see it.
Right. There's a lot of what he was mentioning just in summary is what she had seen already may or may not be what is currently there. And it may or may not even be what we do going forward. Know that it's never too far gone at this point. There's no construction crews here. We could just terminate the project. Nothing's started. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't want to, I don't know if anybody heard this, but we don't want to drag our feet either. We want to get this project done. It's important for this community. It's important for how you use the space. So we're not going to drag our feet either, but we do want to go at a good pace to bring everyone along and ensure that all the feedback is incorporated into it, which includes signs, it includes pictures, it includes all of that. Yes.
Not to sort of change the subject, but when you say that you had 6 projects, rebuilding projects in your community in 10 years, that's impressive. We have been working, we're new here, so I don't know how long the Galleria has been going on, but it sounds to me like it's been at least 6 years. Can you help us do anything about our dining department? Your dining department had a 74 rating, ours had a 32. It was even lower on that than that if you just took independent residents into account. Our kitchen is 30 years old. It has not had, as my understanding, any renovation in 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
They have not changed the cooking mechanisms. We do not have a grill like most places have today. We don't have, I think, other more modern furniture or more modern appliances. We need really help, and all of us eat every day. So I think
That's good.
that dining is probably one of the top items on many people's mind that needs serious improvement. Can you help Human Good understand that we need attention here, and that means a rebuild of the kitchen?
Amen. I couldn't have said it better in the fact that dining affects everyone. If you come to this community, I would have told you 10 years ago, the reason why people came to senior living communities was they wanted to see what healthcare was available at the site. Now, when new residents come in, and you could probably ask your sales team here, the first thing they ask is, how is the food and how is the lifestyle programming? What are the events and fun things that I get to go do? What's the social aspect? Those are the two most important things in a site. Can I help with your dining? Absolutely. What will I be able to do? I don't know yet. We are in Boise, we self-op. So I don't have Morrison in my community. My community is run by me. And my history lends itself well to that from a hospitality standpoint. I've run restaurants before. I know all the equipment that you're talking about. I've already toured your kitchen. I've looked through the things that you have and what you're able to do. It also comes down to the executive chef, the menu planning, what the city, what the town will let you do. All those things come into play, but can I help? Absolutely. There are minor adjustments even that since I've been here that I'm already going to be working with the team on. Now, Paul, I believe, is on vacation. He'll be back soon. Your executive chef's new, been here month or so. So I got 2 brand new slates to work with, and I will. I also, because I've been around so long, I know everyone in the game. Willie Cho, have you met Willie at this community? Maybe a few of you have. Willie Cho is the highest ranking person within Morrison that's on this account for him. I already called him on Tuesday when I first got here and said, when are we going to meet? Let's talk TLG. So he is already dispatching people to meet with me next Thursday about your dining program. So I don't want to make promises that I can't fulfill. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I promise you I'm going to look into it and improve it in micro ways all the way as we go through, and we'll see what we can do to get better and better and better. We will get your scores up. If you beat Boise, then they're going to be mad at me and they're going to make me come back. So we'll maybe just right under Boise. Yes. Can you make appointments to see me? Absolutely. I love it. I love my residents. That's why I publish my cell phone number. There is no time that isn't yours in my book. So text me if you text, call me if you call. You're welcome to email me. You're welcome to write a handwritten note and give it to one of the concierges. They'll get it to me. I will absolutely make time to meet with any one of you or all of you individually if you'd like. How do you make an appointment to see me? The fastest and easiest way is just pick up the phone, call me, tell me that you want to meet with me. My phone number is on all this things here, and I'll just look at my calendar and pencil you in. And I've already done that. I've met with about 6. I met with Flo. I don't see her. She said she was coming. Flo, you said you were coming. She gave me a list of residents that I should also meet with. They maybe run some of the committees around here. So some of you who are probably running committees or have been around the community for a while are going to get an automatic phone call from me, just for me introducing myself and offering to take you to lunch or dinner or something like that so we can get to know each other. Yes. First, yes.
Hi, I agree with everything Susan said about the dining committee, dining room, all the things connected with dining, 100%. But we have been here 13 years, and for 13 years we have had that we would promise that we would have an overhaul of the Galleria, et cetera, et cetera. I am ashamed and have been for a number of years of the dirty conditions of our furniture and our rugs. And we did have a kind of a hoo-hoo about all this, and we did get things clean, but that isn't the answer. The thing is, we need new rugs, we need new furniture. It's just embarrassing. I don't think people look at the structure so much when they walk in here, but when they walk in here and see, you know, dirty looking furniture and rugs, it's not very impressive. So again, I really agree with what Susan said about the kitchen. So I think there are 2 really big problems here. And I really think 13 years that we've been here and we've been waiting for a cleanup of this whole rugs, furniture, etc., is long enough.
I couldn't agree more. I wasn't here for the 10 years, but I couldn't agree more. I will tell you, while the ship's under my watch, that type of stuff doesn't fly. I've already met with Diana and Vincent, and they have a list from me. I am very detail oriented. Cleanliness, surprisingly enough, when I came here and met with Alex for dinner and had Chipino 10 years ago, the same crack was actually in the flooring right out here than it was when I was here 10 years ago. And when I came back, I remembered that and I walked to that spot. I'm like, it's still here. That doesn't happen under my watch. You can ask any of my residents. I know I will earn that trust and earn that respect as we go along. But I will tell you right now, first impressions are near and dear to my heart. You should be proud to bring everyone here. And that's the furniture, that's the food, that's the decor, that's the team members smiling and being in good attitudes. That's all of that. You should be very proud. You should be showing this place off to all of your friends. And we're going to get it back there very quickly. You can ask the team. I work very fast. I already ripped down wallpaper and was painting myself in the back offices because I didn't like that the walls weren't patched. So I will roll up my sleeves and do it myself if I need to. You may actually even see that. It's not because we don't have team members. I just like to work. So you have my commitment. Absolutely. It's going to happen. Yes.
I just wanted to make an observation, and that is that I'm not sure in Boise if you have this, but our kitchen is in the wing that is underneath the health center. So we have an osh pod that covers a lot of construction and things that we have to meet. So it isn't just quite as simple as replacing some appliances. You have to meet all the rules and regulations and go through hoops and red tape.
Oh yes,
I just-
Oshpod is a blast. Every time when I worked in hotels I was actually stationed in Emeryville, just north here. I did a merger and acquisition. If you were around at that time and you remember Emeryville, there's a Woodfin Suites and it converted over to a Hyatt. That was one of my projects. And getting to know the town and the city was a lot of fun. Oshpod has always been a pain, but our community, we have 7 kitchens across the community, not just one main kitchen, 7. So we will make strides in conjunction with Oshpod and all those things that are necessary, but we will make strides to get it better. Yep. And I promise, I make all these like hopes and dreams and promises, and it sounds like, oh, this is wonderful. And then I'm gone. And I assure you, when I set up a community like we did in Las Ventanas, we set it up for success. I'm a part of the planning when it comes to the new executive director that's coming in. They spend time with me. They learn a little bit from me. I learn from them too, depending upon how seasoned they are and what they've been doing. But the plan continues. It's not that this plan is with me and then it stops. This is going to be passed down and generated for a community, almost like here's your playbook, continue this playbook. And that will be passed down to the next executive director whenever they come into this community. But I do know from human good standpoint, I've had conversations with Dan and John. I should just call them Don, easier, just one name for both of them. They are committed as well, not only from I'm going to be here and I'm going to do it, but also from we're going to approve the financial resources necessary to make this type of thing happen.
You mentioned Morrison. Now I understand the outlier in the food evaluation for Boise, namely that you have not Morrison. Actually, I emailed you that my simple Google search, it is not Morrison, but it is Bon Appetit from Bemco in Palo Alto. He does serve the food from here. And I've been, and my wife, for a year in France. It's certainly, the food is not Bon Appetit.
Understood. Morrison's been a good partner with Human Good over the years. I was around when it was actually the North had Sodexo and the South had Morrison. I was there when we joined forces. I was there when the decision was made to move forward on Bon Appetit, which is a division under Morrison. There are many different feelings on them. Some communities love Morrison, some it's different. And I will tell you, I don't know that Morrison is the difference. It's usually the local team. It's the executive chef. It's the Pauls of the world, the food and beverage directors, or do you call it dining services director here probably, that usually can make a difference in an effort to change. Now, menu planning, web nutrition, things like that, those do come from a parent company. I like some of the structure that a Morrison and a Sodexo does bring to the table. Also bench strength when you lose team members. I can tell you in Boise, when I lost my executive chef 4.5 years ago, I had to find a gentleman in Louisiana and bring him up. And he was my interim executive director for 6 months because I'm very slow at hiring senior positions because I want to make sure it's the right hire. 6 months before I had a new executive chef in. And I ended up stealing him from San Joaquin Gardens, which is funny to me. Do you guys know where San Joaquin Gardens is? Another
Yeah.
community? Fresno? Yeah. I took their executive chef and he brought him to Boise. But you duly noted that there is a statistical, yep, because I don't have
Yeah.
Morrison. Yeah.
No.
Right. So what that looks like in the future, only time will tell. I don't have an answer for that, but I can do small things to improve it here. And I can work through the relationships that already exist within Morrison because I know all of them to bring some additional resources and some time here. I mean, I even saw today on your menu, I don't know what shrimp and watermelon salad is today. I thought it, honestly, I almost embarrassed myself in front of the CEO. I was like, is salad like a thing in California? Should I order the salad? I think it was salad supposed to be. Yeah. So like those type of things, we're gonna get fixed.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
almost ordered the salad today. Yes.
regarding Morrison, they are having all different levels of quality of raw ingredients. We are getting the lowest quality possible. And that has decreased the quality of the food. Doesn't matter how much spices you throw in it, you can never cover up that it's a bad starting material. And if you are an executive chef and you cannot decide what kind of raw material you're going to work with, and you cannot decide the menus because they are done by Morrison headquarters for Silicon Valley or how many different places, do you think a really good executive chef will come and work under those conditions?
No, to be honest with you, no, I don't. That's just Judd's opinion. Don't apply that anywhere else. But yes, an executive chefs from nature are usually artistic people. And if you restrict an artistic person to say, I know you want to be artistic, but you can only use red crayons and you can crayons, and you can only use them on these bricks, you're going to get a red brick. You're not going to get the creative outlet that you can have from an executive chef who can choose their raw materials. Now, raw materials, if you don't know in the food and beverage world, I keep saying food and beverage, that's just what the industry calls it. You probably know it as dining services, but F&B directors and things like that, that's what the foodies call it when they're actually in their world. Executive chefs that are great at what they do have the ability to choose that percent. Usually I will tell you in the industry, it's about 60-40. 60% you use in the MFD, which is your master food distributor. Think Cisco. You probably heard of Cisco before? Yep. So like the Cisco, 60% of your food comes from there. Those are salt. Salt from anywhere is salt. I know someone probably here loves Himalayan salt. Sorry, but salt. That stuff, it's sugar, flour, those type of things should come from your master food distributor. Proteins, produce should be able to be selected for the most fresh and better quality, such as a local beef ranch or a produce shop that's close that you actually order off the truck versus coming from your master food distributor just because of the cost is low. I agree with all of that. You're exactly correct. And that's one way to absolutely up the quality is to ensure the raw food and ingredients that you're using are of high quality.
Fancy name of the dishes. You have to pick out the cell phone and look it up to have any understanding what it's going to be.
I didn't hear all of it, but I think she said something about sometimes the menu names are so fancy that you have to take out your phone to figure out what it is. Yeah, I hate that too. I've been to fancy restaurants and I'm sitting there trying to Google what it is I'm about to eat so I don't embarrass myself. I will tell you one of the things that I'd like to try and see if I can get updated and changed pretty quickly for you is underneath the item, you just don't know what's in it. Like the other day I was ordering the chili, and if I had known the chili was the chili that came out that had vegetables and meat and all the different things, that would be great. Also, I mean, for seniors and from you who are issues with this, I even currently have issues with it, onions and garlic. Like I should know those things are in food because it can cause digestive issues. Those type of things should be on a menu. You should be able to know what different things are in those things. Those are simple changes that I can absolutely start to put in play. So when it says, fish of the day, how about we just put it's salmon, haha. Surprise. Guess what? We actually knew it was salmon before we printed that menu, and we could have made that update. We just didn't, or there wasn't a process in place to do that. Those are the simple fixes that will be the micro adjustments that I'm talking about that we can begin to get better and better and better and build on. All of these changes, there's no one big magic wand. It's usually just processes that have been broken over the years that need to be put back into place, and then an accountability person to hold people accountable to not put Salah on the menu. Because I will tell you, I am that person. You've known me probably 3 days. I'm sorry, I'm pointing to one of our team members in the back who's doing the things. You've known me about 3 days. I am very blunt. I'm very honest. My wife does not ask me, do I look fat in this dress? I might say, and I would just walk away. I am very blunt. I am very honest. It comes from my father. So the team, I am very much that way with the team as well. If I see something, I say something very quickly. Like Salah, I will absolutely be talking with your team. That should never happen. To me, that's embarrassing. That's an easy catch. And we should be able to deliver better. So we're going to fix those processes. And I will absolutely hold that team accountable for that. I'm a big accountability person. Yes.
All I want is a chicken that is not overcooked. All I want is a salmon that is not overcooked. And so by default, I have decided, I'm a fairly new member here, resident. I've lived here now for almost a year. I stopped ordering chicken. I stopped ordering pork. I usually don't even eat beef because that's the only thing that you can control how it's cooked here. And then there's also the veg. So I ended up almost becoming a vegetarian. And then the best thing would be the salad bar, which I have no complaints about. However, the braised vegetables, which I like and which are good for you, there are many times they're just cooked to death.
Understood.
So is there a reason why chicken has to be overcooked? It saves energy and money to just cook it.
You don't have to convince me. I will tell you right now, if the chicken's gross, the chicken's gross. It doesn't have to be a energy conversation. It can just be, we need to fix the chicken.
And then they say, well, most people like it this way. And I've heard people complimenting the chicken. And I do understand that, there's people have health issues.
Yeah.
And I'm getting used to eating less salt. I'm getting used to that. But I'm not getting used to, dried chicken. And I've sent it because I was told, send it back to the kitchen. And I did. By the time you get a second load, which is also overcooked,
Sure.
your table companions already are finishing their desserts. And I get the impression that I'm being looked upon as the difficult person.
Understood. You shouldn't be ever looked upon that way. I will tell you.
This is something, it's one of the highlight. I mean, it could be for many of us, the highlight of the day.
I couldn't agree more.
My
Everything you said, I agree with.
Okay, my hope is on you. Thank you.
Yes. And I will tell you the chicken, the reason why it's just dry and overcooked is because it's been overcooked. The second reason that it can happen is the quality of the chicken. There's many different grades of chicken. Many of us have probably had the low grade stuff that tastes like rubber, ching, 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 and when you chew on it. And then the higher grade where you can actually see the grains inside the chicken. That's all due to cost. And those are different things that I can address for sure. We shouldn't ever skimp on proteins. We shouldn't ever skimp on produce. We should negotiate the other items down so that we can spend more on those items because those are the important ones. Yeah.
I already talked to you about this morning, but I wonder if there are other people who are missing vegetarian meals at every day, lunch
Well,
and
let's take
dinner.
a small straw vote. Who would like to see more vegetarian meals? There you go. There's about a third of the room. So it sounds like vegetarian meals are a go.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Look at that. We just employed the democratic process. We took a vote. It's happening. Other questions, comments? Yes.
Medium rare, it'll be overdone. Or if you want it overdone, it'll be rare. The message doesn't get through when you speak to your waiting staff.
I'll repeat it for you. So what she was mentioning is when you're in the dining room and you order a beef or a temperature such as medium rare or something like that, that message doesn't get through to the kitchen. I don't know that to be the case yet. And let me just be clear. That message may all be all the way to the cook, and the cook just has no idea how to make that medium rare. Or the server didn't understand and they never put it in. That's why I will look at the entire process from start to finish. And from a training perspective, make sure that first off, the server knows how to put it in, that the message is clear. But then if the message is clear all the way through, that we're cooking to the proper temperature. At minimum, the 5 temperatures should be on there.
And it's things like food that you're allergic to. One I know of, I don't, but I know of, is mushrooms. Somebody can't eat mushrooms. They mention that to the wait staff. Sometimes it gets through, other times it doesn't. It's in the gravy or whatever. They just want to know so they don't get a reaction. And it's
You're right.
hard. Yeah, it's hard to get that through sometimes.
You're right, and I agree. And those are some of those processes that we need to take a look at and improve for sure. Yes.
Is there a training period for the wait staff?
Is there a training period for the wait staff was her question. There is a training standard, but it's different at every community. I don't know what it is for here yet from that perspective, but I will check and I will find out. And there should be more than 2 hours. Yes. Can we have input on the menus before they're published? Does this community have a dining committee or a food and beverage committee? Perfect. That is usually how the communities voice their frustrations, concerns, issues. For me, I actually sat down with my dining committee and I told them all, stop telling me the bad stuff. I said, if you want things that are bad, you need to tell the team immediately. What I want to hear from you is strategic things that we need to do different, that we can get better at. And it stopped the whole idea of residents would come and one resident would say, the green beans are too salty. And then in the same breath, I would hear out of this resident, the green beans are not salty enough. And it's very difficult to chase your tail in dining when it comes to subjective areas of the dining committee. The feedback usually that is important for people like myself to have is strategically, what would you like? When you came to me, if you come to me and said, instead of the green beans are salty or not salty, you said, we'd like to see more green vegetables here. Let me then deliver on that. Or we'd like to see better proteins. Those are strategic changes that I can make and help here. Now, if your only complaint is the green beans are too salty, if everybody tells me the green beans are too salty, we're going to put less salt in the green beans. But if it's about 50-50, that's usually why salt's on the table. So you can add more if you need to, but if you can't subtract, it kind of is what it is. That's that subjective area where even in restaurants outside today, how many of you go to the local, what's a local restaurant here?
Aldo's.
Taco Bell.
Aldo's Cafe.
Aldo's, there you go. So if you go to Aldo's, you probably don't say, when I'm ordering my meal, I'd like less salt. They probably just deliver it the way it is. Now, from a conscious standpoint, we should make an effort in a senior community to ensure that there are options for no salt added diets as well as limited salt. But just taking away all the salt and then just saying there's salt on the table also isn't a great option either. So we'll try to do our best to ensure that it's a not a dining room, and that's something you can be proud of. Yeah.
Hi, while you were talking, I decided to go on and see who's on the decor committee and who's on the dining committee. And I don't know how to find it on Kubigo.
Gotcha. So on TLG Connect, her question was kind of surrounding who's on what committee. I don't know myself who's on all your committees, but I am an expert in TLG Connect and I am an expert in Kubigo.
The committees are only giving the chairperson. They do not give a name of the members.
Okay, it sounds like it's your community. On Kubigo or TLG Connect, only the chairperson is listed, maybe not the other people that are on the committee. Perfect. So the gentleman was mentioning that in the minutes, if you pull the minutes from the committees, it'll tell you in there who is on those committees. If it's a request from across the community to figure out who's on what committees, that's an easy fix. I can put that list together and I can post it on TLG Connect for you personally. I know the CEO of Kubigo, Gert. He's a good friend of mine. So again, I've been around way too long. Yes.
We have a beautiful dining room. We spent $1.4 million during pandemic to get it upgraded, and it looks nice and it's a pleasant place to be. unfortunately, because we lack staff, a lot of times we come to dining and the back third is closed because they don't have enough staff people to make that work. So it's not so much the food as the problem as the ability to get people to come wait tables and do that sort of thing. What can we do to help that out? Because it's not bad, but we all have to sit outside the entrance and socialize.
And wait.
And wait. And
Right.
the socialization becomes a griping. So why can't we get in and sit? Because there are plenty of empty tables.
Understood. If you didn't hear the comment, it's surrounding the idea that the experience is not just about the food and the quality, it's also about the experience from having enough team members to ensure that's a high quality experience. What can we do to help with that? I actually don't know yet. Give me a week or so and let me figure that out. I'll be able to take a look at local market. Is it a wage issue? Is it a training issue? Is it a boss issue? Is it a ability to promote issue? There's many different things why we either work for a company or don't work for a company, why we stay for a company or why we leave a company. I don't know what's happening here yet, but I will find that out. Yeah, there you go. I had many of my residents especially during COVID, like, oh, I'll help, I'll do it, I'll help. I did it. I actually had a couple of them start. Would you believe they called off on their shifts? No joke. I'm waiting for my host to show up and nobody showed up. Now, true, it actually did happen, but many times we can't put residents obviously to work because of workman's comp. Yep.
Hello, I'm just wondering, there's a little box as we enter and leave the dining area where we can put suggestions or we can write comments. Does anybody pay any attention to those, or does everybody know about them?
Question was, as you exit the dining room, there is a little box for comments. Does anybody read them? Does anybody know about them? I don't know the answer to that question yet. I haven't been long enough, but my assumption, if it's like other communities, is that those usually go to either the dining team or the food and beverage or dining committee. Does either of those happen? Is there any members of the dining committee here? Do you get the comment cards?
No.
Okay. Okay. Understood. Many communities, and I've been to all of them except the New Boston communities. Many communities, actually, the questions that are asked in the dining questionnaire are designed by the dining committee at the community because they're trying to focus on a certain area of what's important to them. I've been in communities that just says the only thing on there was, how did you like your dessert? That was it. That was what they wanted to know. They wanted to know whether the dessert was good or not. I've been in communities where they have a star rating system. How would you rate your entree? How would you rate your team member? There is no standardization from community to community when it comes to those dining cards. It's a great avenue for the dining committee if it's important to them to get the feedback. It's also important for that to be shared with you so that you know. Let me just put it a different way. It's a good check and balance system that you see it and we see it. Because if just we see it, we could just and do nothing with it. But if you see it and you know the response of the community, you can help hold us and the team accountable for an action plan to get better.
The dining committee doesn't
there you are. I'm sorry.
have any access to those cards. And we've always been told that the staff, when it's positive, is posted so they can see it. And when it's not, it's supposed to be remedial training, which is supposed to happen. The food comments, because it does ask you what the food is like. It's not saying specifically, do you like the dessert, whatever. It allows you to comment on how well it's done, how well it's cooked, what your service is like. And then on the back is a free form for you to tell them. And our understanding is that when it's a comment on the food itself, it goes back to the chef, which we have not had, and goes back to that staff. So they're aware of the fact that they cannot